Ladies and gentlemen, boys and ghouls, welcome back to Liberty Learner, your destination for spine-tingling stories that will haunt your dreams and send shivers down your spine. I'm your host Arthur, and today, we're diving into the terrifying world of R.L. Stine's Goosebumps, Night of the Living Dummy. Prepare to be immersed in a tale where ventriloquism takes a sinister turn, and the line between reality and nightmare blurs. So, grab your headphones and brace yourselves for a journey that will have you looking over your shoulder and checking under your bed. Without further ado, let's turn the page and enter a world where dummies come alive and fear takes on a whole new meaning. But remember, dear listeners, as we venture into the realm of Night of the Living Dummy, be ready for sleepless nights and an unrelenting sense of dread. This is Chapter 1. Mom. Mem me. Kris Powell struggled to get her twin sister's attention. Lindy Powell glanced up from the book she was reading to see what the problem was. Instead of her sister's pretty face, Lindy saw a round pink bubble nearly the size of Kris's head. "Nice one," Lindy said without much enthusiasm. With a sudden move, she poked the bubble and popped it. "Hey!" Kris cried as the pink bubble gum exploded onto her cheeks and chin. Lindy laughed. "Gotcha." Kris angrily grabbed Lindy's paperback and slammed it shut. "Whoops, lost your place," she exclaimed. She knew her sister hated to lose her place in a book. Lindy grabbed the book back with a scowl. "Why are you always so mean to me?" Mean. Lindy looked up in wide-eyed innocence. "I'm an angel. Ask anyone." Exasperated, Kris turned back to her mother, who was stuffing socks into a dresser drawer. "Mom, when am I going to get my own room?" "On the 12th of never," Mrs. Powell replied, grinning. Kris groaned. "That's what you always say." Her mother shrugged. "You know we don't have a spare inch, Kris." She turned to the bedroom window. Bright sunlight streamed through the filmy curtains. "It's a beautiful day. What are you two doing inside?" "Mom, we're not little girls," Lindy said, rolling her eyes. "We're 12. We're too old to go out and play." "Did I get it all?" Kris asked again, still scraping pink patches of bubble gum off her chin. "Leave it. It improves your complexion," Lindy told her. "I wish you girls would be nicer to each other," Mrs. Powell said with a sigh. They suddenly heard shrill barking coming from downstairs. "What's Barky excited about now?" Mrs. Powell fretted. The little black terrier was always barking about something. "Why not take Barky for a walk?" "Don't feel like it," Lindy muttered, nose in her book. "What about those beautiful new bikes you got for your birthday?" Mrs. Powell said, hands on hips. "Those bikes you just couldn't live without. You know, the ones that have been sitting in the garage since you got them." Okay. You don't have to be sarcastic, Mom," Lindy said, closing her book. She stood up, stretched, and tossed the book onto her bed. "You want to?" Kris asked Lindy. "Want to what?" "Go for a bike ride. We could ride to the playground, see if anyone's hanging out at school." "You just want to see if Robbie is there," Lindy said, making a face. "So?" Kris said, blushing. "Go on." Get some fresh air, Mrs. Powell urged. I'll see you later. I'm off to the supermarket. Kris peered into the dresser mirror. She had gotten most of the gum off. She brushed her short hair back with both hands. Come on. Let's go out, she said. Last one out is a rotten egg. She darted to the doorway, beating her sister by half a step. As they burst out the back door, with Barky yipping shrilly behind them, the afternoon sun was high in a cloudless sky. The air was still and dry. It felt more like summer than spring. Both girls were wearing shorts and sleeveless t-shirts. Lindy bent to pull open the garage door, then stopped. The house next door caught her eye. Look, they've got the walls up, she told Kris, pointing across their backyard. That new house is going up so quickly. It's amazing, Kris said, following her sister's gaze. The builders had knocked down the old house during the winter. The new concrete foundation had been put down in March. Lindy and Kris had walked around on it when no workers were there, trying to figure out where the different rooms would go. And now the walls had been built. The construction suddenly looked like a real house, rising up in the midst of tall stacks of lumber, a big mound of red-brown dirt, a pile of concrete blocks, and an assortment of power saws, tools, and machinery. No one's working today, Lindy said. They took a few steps toward the new house. Who do you think will move in? Kris wondered. Maybe some great-looking guy our age. Maybe great-looking twin guys. Yuck. Lindy made a disgusted face. Twin guys. How drippy can you get? I can't believe you and I are in the same family. Kris was used to Lindy's sarcasm. Both girls liked being twins and hated being twins at the same time. Because they shared nearly everything, their looks, their clothing, their room, they were closer than most sisters ever get. But because they were so much alike, they also managed to drive each other crazy a lot of the time. No one's around. Let's check out the new house, Lindy said. Kris followed her across the yard. A square low shrubs that divided the 2 yards. Climbed the concrete stoop. A sheet of heavy plastic had been nailed over the opening where the front door would go. Kris pulled one end of the plastic up, and they slipped into the house. It was dark and cool inside and had a fresh wood smell. The plaster walls were up but hadn't been painted. Careful, Lindy warned. Nails. She pointed to the large nails scattered over the floor. If you step on one, you'll get lockjaw and die. You wish, Kris said. I don't want you to die, Lindy replied. Just get lockjaw. She snickered. Ha ha, Kris said sarcastically. This must be the living room, she said, making her way carefully across the front room to the fireplace against the back wall. A cathedral ceiling, Lindy said, staring up at the dark, exposed wooden beams above their heads. Neat. This is bigger than our living room, Kris remarked, peering out the large picture window to the street. It smells great, Lindy said, taking a deep breath. All the sawdust. It smells so piney. They made their way through the hall and explored the kitchen. Are those wires on? Kris asked, pointing to a cluster of black electrical wires suspended from the ceiling beams. Why don't you touch one and find out? Lindy suggested. You first, Kris shot back. The kitchen isn't very big, Lindy said, bending down to stare into the holes where the kitchen cabinets would go. She stood up and was about to suggest they check out the upstairs when she heard a sound. Huh. Her eyes widened in surprise. Is someone in here? Kris froze in the middle of the kitchen. They both listened. Silence. Then they heard soft, rapid footsteps. Close by. Inside the house. Let's go, Lindy whispered. Kris was already ducking under the plastic, heading out the doorway opening. She leaped off the back stoop and started running toward their backyard. Lindy stopped at the bottom of the stoop and turned back to the new house. Hey, look, she called. A squirrel came flying out a side window. It landed on the dirt with all 4 feet moving and scrambled toward the maple tree in the Powell's yard. Lindy laughed. Just a dumb squirrel. Kris stopped near the low shrubs. You sure? She hesitated, watching the windows of the new house. That was a pretty loud squirrel. When she turned back from the house, she was surprised to find that Lindy had disappeared. Hey, where'd you go? Over here, Lindy called. I see something. It took Kris a while to locate her sister. Lindy was half hidden behind a large black dumpster at the far end of the yard. Kris shielded her eyes with one hand to see better. Lindy was bent over the side of the dumpster. She appeared to be rummaging through some trash. What's in there? Kris called. Lindy was tossing things around and didn't seem to hear her. What is it? Kris called, taking a few reluctant steps toward the dumpster. Lindy didn't reply. Then, slowly, she pulled something out. She started to hold it up. Its arms and legs dangled down limply. Kris could see a head with brown hair. A head. Arms and legs. Oh, no. Kris cried aloud, raising her hands to her face in horror. And there you have it, brave souls. Chapter 1 of Fear and Fascination concludes here on Liberty Learner. I hope you've enjoyed our spine-chilling journey into Goosebumps, Night of the Living Dummy by R.L. Stine. Stay connected for Chapter 2, where the nightmare continues and the horrors deepen. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, hit that notification bell, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, my fellow thrill seekers, keep your flashlights handy and your covers pulled tight, because you never know what lurks in the shadows. This is Arthur signing off from Liberty Learner. Stay spooky.